I'm Chrissy Wozniak. Our guest today is a senior commercial executive with over 30 years of experience in the global agriculture industry. She has an undergraduate degrees in agricultural economics and accounting from Oklahoma State University and a master's degree in agricultural economics from Texas A&M University. She recently retired as president of the crop protection business platform of Corteva Agriscience, and she's a board director for Cultiva, CPRO Corporation, and HGS Bioscience. She was active in the industry, serving as chairman of the board of CropLife America and was chairman of the National FFA Foundation Sponsors Board. She'll be speaking at this year's Women in Agribusiness Summit in Nashville, Tennessee in September on the topic of diverse innovations that are changing the future of agriculture and food. And that's what we're going to be talking about today. From Indianapolis, Indiana, I'd like to welcome Susanne Wasson. Welcome, Susanne, and thank you so much for being here today.
Thanks, Chrissy. It's a pleasure to be here.
So let's start out about talking about your background. Did you grow up in agriculture?
I did. So my dad's side of the family has a long history of being in the cattle business, and spent most of my years growing up in the livestock industry. We raised purebred Santa Gertrudis cattle in Oklahoma. And so I showed cattle and really developed my passion for agriculture all through growing up, and continued that at college and then joining the workforce.
Oh, that's awesome. And you've had a very distinguished career. What interested you most about the industry as you followed your path?
Yeah, well, growing up in the livestock industry, I didn't know a lot about crops, but I met a couple of women that were new sales reps for, it was Dow Chemical at the time, selling products in the range and pasture and row crop business. And I was still in college, but I thought, wow, I would love to do something like that in the future. And as it ended up after grad school, I was able to get a job with, at the time it was Dow Elanco, actually in finance, because that's really what I thought I wanted to do. Graduating from college was be a finance person in an ag company. So after a few finance and accounting roles, I thought, yeah, I really don't want to do that. So I did have the opportunity to go into sales and absolutely loved it. So spent the rest of my career in sales, marketing, global product management, and just loved it, and spent 32 years with Dow Elanco, Dow Agrisciences, and then finally Corteva Agriscience.
Oh, that's awesome. And you're speaking next month at the Women in Agribusiness Summit on the topic of ag innovation. So what are you planning to discuss there?
Well, I think the issue of innovation is fraught with all kinds of challenges, from looking at it from both the farmer perspective and the consumer perspective. And it seems like when you talk about innovation in food, that is something that's a little bit scary for consumers. But I liken it to what is really the difference if you're making advances from a technology standpoint, just like you get a new iPhone every 3 or 4 years. So technology just seems to have a different connotation when it comes to our food. And I think it's important, as we're bringing new innovation to farmers and ranchers, that we try to tell the story of why the innovation that we're bringing is sustainable, and help not only the whole food value chain understand that, in addition to farmers, that will make our job much easier as we bring this new technology to the market.
Yeah, that makes sense. And sometimes it feels like we've made it. We're already there. What on earth could we possibly invent or innovate next? Like, I never thought I'd see the day that I'd be at a field demo watching a robot identify singular weeds and then blast them with lasers. Like, that sounds like a science fiction movie, but that's reality now. So where do you think that we're going, and where can we go from here?
Sure. Well, I think you really have to look at how we've evolved over time. And I'll just use the example of crop protection products, because that's what I know really well. When I first started in sales over 30 years ago, we would make recommendations for products that we were applying at pints or quarts per acre. So, very large volumes. Fast forward 15 to 30 years, and many of our products today go out at only a few ounces per acre.
Yeah.
So not only are you able to identify molecules that have activity at much lower dose rates, you're reducing your footprint of products sprayed, as well as the packaging that those products go in. So it's good for the environment as well. So, where do we go from here? I think then we're in a new stage in terms of crop protection at looking at biologicals. And for, back 30 years ago, I think what we saw was most farmers and many of us said, well, that's snake oil. That's, a term that farmers use regularly. Where today we see that there are biologicals, whether it's biological control for insects or disease, or biostimulants that really are complementary to fertilizers, that are really performing well and helping manage some of the big regulatory challenges that we have in the future. Now, I will always say that it's not an or, it's and. So I think biologicals have a place alongside the traditional synthetic chemistry that we will continue to develop and innovate in. Natural products discovery is another area that's, coming up, and it's harder to find those products that actually will do what they say, kill the bugs that they say, or, control the diseases or the weeds. At the same time, I think that science has advanced so far. When you used to detect products at parts per million, now it's parts per trillion, right? So I do think that there is this, advancing of science into the future that's really going to continue, regardless of us thinking that, we've kind of reached the pinnacle today. I think there's much more opportunity to really look at how we grow crops, how we produce livestock. And there's so many smart people that are coming into ag today. I think that's what's exciting. And it's not just people that come from an ag background that have an agronomy or an ag economics degree. It's data scientists and chemists and biology majors that are bringing, additional innovation into our industry, which is really exciting.
Yeah, that is really exciting. And then you marry what manufacturers are doing, with John Deere See and Spray, for example. That kind of technology is amazing, to be able to reduce that ounce to half ounce or whatever it ends up being, right? That's really remarkable.
And I think, the future is really going to be, how do we bring all of this together to provide, instead of a product in a jug or just a piece of equipment, how do we bring a solution to the farmer that uses data, that uses equipment? And I could see a future where you bring to a regulator a package that says, here's how it will be used and here's how it will be sprayed. In addition to all of the other, regulatory information, that you really are bringing a sustainable innovation. Because if you look around the world and see what's happening from a regulatory standpoint, no matter whether you're in animal health pharmaceuticals, or whether you're in crop protection, or whether you're bringing traits for seeds, the regulatory bar keeps getting higher and higher in terms of what's acceptable. So we have to be able to respond to that.
Yeah, absolutely. And what sectors do you think are going to get the most attention going into the future?
You made the comment about data and how we're going to work with all that data. I think in the future, there's got to be some kind of consolidation of data platforms where the platform itself becomes somewhat agnostic, no matter where it comes from, because there is so much data available to farmers. But how, if it's coming, part of it's coming from the machinery, part of it's coming from the seed company, part of it's coming from a product, whether it's a fertilizer, a biostimulant, a crop protection product, it's all disparate and it's not all consolidated. So how do we work together as an industry to streamline that? I think that will come. We're certainly not there yet, but I think that will come in the future, because that is going to benefit farmers and ranchers going forward.
Yeah, that's an excellent point. Today's producer is just inundating themselves with data, and they can collect data like on every breeze that blows over their land. So even now, is there a way for a grower to avoid that data overload? How do they choose what's important and what's not, while we wait for the better solution?
Mhm. Well, I think a lot of growers rely on their retailer in many cases, because they can kind of be a consolidator of that data and information, or in some cases, their seed company if it's around seed. But I do think that having that trusted advisor in the field is very, very important. The other thing that there's consolidation in the industry, and that creates opportunity, but it also creates concern. And I understand that. But if you think about innovation that's happening, certainly large multinationals are developing innovation, and they spend billions of dollars in R&D to bring new innovation. A lot of that innovation really comes from their core of what they're good at. If they're good at seed and genetics, then that's where they spend the bulk of their R&D investment. You have so many startup companies in the ag space, whether it's in technology or biological new products, that typically have a fairly small budget. And their biggest challenge is to get that innovation market access. And I think this is where we need to have more collaboration in the industry. And it's really happening today, but I think it'll happen at a much larger scale, because if there are ways to get technology to the farmer right now, I think someone could walk down the farm road every single day with a new product, and a farmer really doesn't have time to test all those products. So how can we collaborate as an industry? So, and I've always said the best ideas don't always come from the large companies, they come from everywhere. So good technology is out there, with big companies, with small companies, but I think collaboration and working together is really going to be key to help getting the best technology into the hands of our farmers.
Yeah, that's it. And the collaboration that I've even seen over the last few years is really mind-blowing. I remember 20 years ago, manufacturers just, hiding, looking around and hiding. Now you see them, at Commodity Classic in a room together, with isobus, and them actually making sure that all of the equipment is compatible with each other and with the software. And I think that's a huge step forward. And, I just think about myself. I travel a lot for what I do, and I get into a rental car and I don't know where the windshield wiper is. Right? It starts to rain and I'm like, oh my goodness, I'm going to die. I don't know where it is. So I think that collaboration is really key. I really liked your points there.
I think, one thing that we haven't really talked much about, though, is sustainability.
Yeah.
And that's really at the top of everybody's mind. And I almost consider that table stakes today. And when I think about sustainability, I like to think about the three-legged stool that people talk about from innovation. Sustainable innovation really has to focus on not only the societal benefits, the environmental benefits, but also the economic benefits.
Yeah.
And if one of those is missing, then you end up having challenges in terms of getting that innovation to the market. You can have like the best idea or the best technology, but if it doesn't make economic sense for a farmer to implement, then it really is not going to be able to stay in the market long term. And so I think most companies today that are developing technology, they're really looking at it through a sustainability lens at the very beginning, to make sure, are we meeting these criteria going forward? Because I think we know that we in agriculture have worked for years trying to talk about our story, and we don't do a good job of getting it out there. And I've always felt that farmers and ranchers are the best stewards of our land that we have anywhere.
Yeah.
And they're trying to take care of that land for the next generation. So how can we, as both companies that are input providers, as well as downstream, start to tell that story around sustainable production? And that what we're doing today is really helping benefit everybody for the future. It's hard to tell that story to consumers about technology, as I mentioned earlier. And I had the opportunity to meet with a group of consumers several years ago in California, and we had a facilitator talking. It was about 20 or so consumers that were from the age of, say, 25 to 40. And we were asking them about food. And we said, what's most important to you? And over the 2 hours, initially they said the most important thing was organic production. And when we asked about organic versus locally grown was more important than organic. And then as we got to the end, we started asking about price, and 90% of them said, well, actually, price is the most important. So
Yeah.
it just goes to show you that consumers don't necessarily have all the information they need.
Right.
They want to know about their food and how it's produced, but at the end of the day, they're concerned with cost. And, in the US, we have such a safe, abundant food supply that is at a reasonable cost, where, we need to make sure that we're telling that story.
Yeah, absolutely. And those are great points about the three-legged stool. Sustainability has become kind of a trend word, and people jump on the bandwagon, especially in marketing, if you can tote the word sustainability. But I really like how you added the societal and the economic to the environmental there, because that's where it's really important. Last year I moderated a panel at Fear USA in Fresno, and the topic that I was moderating was robotics business models and the maintenance of computer-based equipment. And one issue that came up over and over again was that magic that happens at the intersection of innovation and profitability. So if the new technology doesn't increase profit for a farmer, it's useless. It doesn't matter how cool it is. It has to make dollars and cents. So how are developers, manufacturers, biologicals, chemicals, how are they navigating this?
Yeah. Well, as spending a long time in marketing, I think when we're thinking about a new innovation, and we make sure, and I think this is very important, that when you have a discovery effort, you're trying to bring new technology forward, that your R&D team and your commercial team are hand in hand. Because your commercial team, those people in the field, I've always said that, like, our sales reps that are closest to the customer, they know what the customer needs. So we really need to make sure, when we're saying our goal is to find these type of products, is that really what a farmer needs? So all the way through, then, as you're developing, if you are hand in glove, your commercial team with your R&D team, then you're probably going to thread that needle where you bring a product forward. But as we would bring technology forward, we said we have to make sure that we have the right value proposition for the farmer. And if we can't articulate what that is, it's going to be a challenge for us, because you can price your product at a certain price to make a profit, but if it's not helping the farmer make a profit at the end of the day, then he's not going to be excited to buy your technology. And there's lots of competing technology out there. So
Right.
Understanding that value proposition as you go forward, I think, is so critical when you're building a new product concept or innovation, and making sure you're staying, close touch to the market as you're bringing it forward, really helps, I think, up the probability of success.
Yeah, great points. And what new innovation in the last 5 years that you've seen do you find the most remarkable, and why?
Well, you mentioned sort of the autonomous spraying. I have just watched videos of all of the harvesting equipment that is, replacing labor that is becoming so hard to find in the US. It's fascinating to me. And being in the crop protection business, people, you would say, aren't you scared of, see and spray, that's going to really, reduce your opportunity for sales? And I said, no, I look at that as a great challenge on how we can work together, because See and Spray is all about controlling weeds, and weeds are going to be there. So they have to spray something. And I think that if you can make that work for a farmer where it's economical with the equipment and the product, then there's always going to be opportunity out there. I think the precision application, especially when you get into biostimulants and biological products, is going to make us be even more precise than we've ever been, because many of those products do work, but they need to be applied in a given environmental situation to extract the most value from them. So I'm excited to see how equipment is going to evolve. I think there's a lot of really exciting things there. I don't know. I think farmers kind of like their equipment. So the autonomous sprayer where he can sit at home and let it do its job, or, whatever it's doing. I'm not sure that farmers will love that, but
Right.
certainly it's a cost saving, I think, long term. I think the advances that we're making in breeding, whether it's crops or whether it's livestock, I think that will continue, in this whole data mining and data science area is going to continue to help us escalate and advance quickly technology way faster than we ever did before. I think just looking at the ability to look at hundreds and hundreds of compounds and screen for activity has changed so much because of the data science. So I think that will continue to be a very great opportunity to accelerate innovation in the future.
Absolutely. And with innovation evolving so quickly, like we've been discussing this whole time, one issue I've been hearing over and over again is that by the time a new product is released into market and in production, software is already out of date. Or it's just going so fast, it can't keep up with itself. And the cost of updating is a huge obstacle. How is the industry going to overcome that obstacle?
Yeah, well, I think we've overcome it just even from our own products that we developed. When I first started in the industry of crop protection, we would take about 10 years to ramp up a new product, and then, maybe, sell it for 20 plus years. Today, when we launch a product, we want to be at maturity within 3 years. And then, it has a much shorter curve of growth and then replacement time than it did 30 years ago. So I think we've learned how to evolve and how to find those next products faster, but we also understand that the life cycles may be shorter. I think when you're looking at software, I think it's much like we get an update on our phone. You could update some app on your phone every single day.
Yeah.
I think behind the scenes, as we bring technology to farmers, we've got to learn how to be more nimble. I think gone are the times when we could take 2 years and develop a software and then think it's going to be there for 5 years. As you said, it's going to be something that's going to have to be continually updated. And I think this is where we can learn from the Silicon Valley tech companies about how you do that without disrupting what the farmer is doing. So, he can't take down everything and stop everything and go, plug into a computer. It's going to have to be seamless in terms of how we update software. But I think we can learn a lot from those actual software companies that are doing that. That's all they do. And quite frankly, we're going to have some of those people on our staffs to be able to help us understand how do we make those seamless upgrades in technology so it doesn't disrupt what the farmer's doing.
Yeah, absolutely. So where can people follow you, and where can they learn more about what you're up to? And of course, they can come to the Women in Agribusiness conference as well, right?
Yes, and I did just want to mention for the Women in Agribusiness conference, I am hosting an innovation panel. So there'll be representatives from 4 or 5 companies that will be there, and they will be doing a TED Talk style presentation, each of them, and then the audience will get to ask questions of them, but it's all early, stage innovation and their journey of how they're getting their product to market. So I think it'll be a really fun, exciting panel. I know I've seen those panels in the past, and I'm looking forward to getting the presenters out there, and they should be announced soon. So I think the Women in Ag Conference is a great opportunity to network. So I'll be there. I'm also on LinkedIn and on Twitter as well. So and enjoying, a change from being full-time in the corporate world to now more focused on board service, but would love to interact with folks when they're at the conference.
Awesome. And I'm looking forward to meeting you there, and I'm looking forward to the whole event. It sounds like it's going to be great.
Very good. Well, thank you, Chrissy. It's been wonderful to visit with you, and look forward to seeing you in Nashville.
Yes, you too. Thank you so much for joining me today. And thanks to all who are watching or listening. If you want to learn more, the links are provided in the show notes. Don't forget to register for Women in Agribusiness Summit. And don't forget to subscribe to North American Ag Spotlight on YouTube, Rumble, or Telegram channels. And the podcast is available on Spotify, Apple, Amazon Listen Notes, or wherever you listen to podcasts. And if you like the episode, I'd love it if you shared it. And have a great day.